The fight or flight kind of mentality and the way that our brains work is that when we go through any kind of traumatic event, our natural reaction is to actually put that armor on. What becomes difficult is to recognize when that armor no longer serves us and we have to start peeling it off in order to move on to that next great chapter. That's why that why exercise and going 7 layers deep, that is about peeling off that armor for that reason, because the trauma has put this armor around us and we need to now peel it off in order for us to move forward.
Welcome to Your Next Big Project is You, a podcast based around the theme of time. Time to be able to press pause on life. Time to reevaluate what's important. Time to reminisce about where you've come from, what you've learned, and what you've accomplished. Time to revisit your goals, dreams, and vision. And time to remember the people in your life. That's it, my friends. If you've got time, fasten your seatbelt and listen in as we discuss opportunities for the next 5 to 25 years of your life. And remember, your next big project is you.
Welcome to our podcast. Your next big project is you. And I have a very special guest today. Peg Ruppert is joining me. And Peg, I feel like we're kindred spirits or, like-minded souls, because for years we've both been in the business of helping other people to be their best, to help organizations to differentiate themselves, to win mandates, and to really to help people to win in life now and in business. So welcome to the podcast, Peg. It's so nice to have you here today.
Thank you, Leo. I'm so glad to be here. And no doubt, I feel the same kindred spirit connection with you. And our paths have been crossing all along. We just didn't know it. And it took a mutual colleague to finally introduce us. And I'm so glad that he did.
Yeah, me too. We probably have about 100 contacts in our Rolodex.
No doubt.
You know that person. I didn't know you know this person. That type
No
of
doubt.
thing. But you've had an amazing journey of success in really helping other organizations and individuals to succeed. Tell us more about that journey.
Sure, absolutely. I actually started this journey almost 30 years ago. So I won't tell you my age, but that might give you a sense. About 30 years ago, I studied, my master's is in adult education and counseling. And so my intention was actually to work at the university level to teach. My undergraduate was business communication. So kind of that's where my career began. And interestingly enough, as I was just starting that career at the University of Cincinnati, one of the deans came to me and said, gosh, and this dean, Dean Munson, 85, 86 years old, dean, still working full time. He had gone to a conference and learned about how colleges were creating profit centers to provide training for business and industry. And here I am, 27 years old. And he comes to me and says, hey, we've done a little bit of this, but I think we could really start a whole business on this. Would you be interested in helping me do that? And that's really how the trajectory of my career changed from helping students in the academic world to helping leaders in the business world. And so that's what kind of transitioned me into the role that I have today and have had for the last 20 years, which is one of the managing partners of Advantage Performance Group. So we're a consulting firm. I work with large companies around the world, but more important, I work with humans. I work with human beings. I work with individual leaders to help them to be stronger leaders. And I work with salespeople to help them be better at selling and coaching their team. So that's what I get to spend like my day job on.
Wow. Well, I know you've achieved black belt status or Navy SEAL, or you become really world class. And I know that from people that we both know and that you've been privileged to work with as well.
Yes.
Which you've accomplished and really helping other people to succeed in participating in that success. I'm sure it's been a meaningful journey for you as well. What hit me though, from looking and then seeing a copy of your book here, Rediscover You, you had a 2x4 hit to the head.
I did.
I would call it years ago. And it was a major life event that really propelled you in another direction here of helping other women that have gone through similar situations.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of this is to help listeners to get a sense. And I know it's far reaching beyond just your own scenario. There are other scenarios in life that mirror this in a way, but what are you comfortable in sharing about that in terms of that 2x4 hit and what you're doing about it to these days?
Absolutely. Well, you're absolutely right. In your industry, I think you call it a Black Swan event. For me, it was a major life pivot. I had been married for 25 years and, two kids at that time, almost adults. They were headed toward college at that time, and found that my husband at the time had been engaged in a long-term relationship with another woman. And, you know, a series of events occurred and it led to the demise, unfortunately, of our marriage. And I never expected this. It really was a 2x4. It was something that I was completely blindsided by. And as I went through that journey, one of the things that I began to realize was how many women never recover from divorce. And, divorce is kind of the focus of this book, but it's called Rediscover You. And, you can have any sorts of life events that take you off track, and people sometimes can't get back on track. They can't recover. And so that's something that I learned going through this experience. And I just, in addition to doing my leader work, decided, I needed to apply these skills and the tools to myself. And I also needed to share it with others, and particularly with women who need to reclaim their identity and rebuild their confidence after this kind of shakedown.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't put the book down because
Thank
I
you.
was relating to people that I know.
Mhm.
I've been fortunate. I tell people I won a wife lotto almost 45 years ago. But I've had many friends that have gone through similar situations
Mhm.
you've encountered. And the one thing in your book, you mentioned that there was like 5 steps to reclaim 3 things: your identity, number one.
Yep.
Two is you're rebuilding your confidence.
Yep.
And 3 is moving forward. And I love this concept to the next great chapter in your wonderful life. It's
Yep.
so much optimism, so many great things to look forward to. Tell us more about those 5 steps and how it aligns to those 3 areas there.
Sure, absolutely. I really do believe that, for whatever that turn is in your life, there's an opportunity to kind of look at that road ahead and redirect to the next great chapter of your wonderful life. And wonderful life, by the way, is a little bit of an ode to my father, who was who, if I had to compare him to any actor, it would be from It's a Wonderful Life. Like he had that abundance and positive kind of personality. And I really believe that. So the steps are focused on, first, really focusing internally and focusing on your strengths, your values, and the habits that will drive, that align with those strengths and values. And so when we start there, we start to rebuild our confidence. We start to rebuild our identity when we focus on what we're good at, when we focus on what's important to us, and when we start putting in new habits that are helping us to kind of show that to the world and drive those forward in a positive way. So those are the first 3 important steps. And it really aligns, when I read your book, the next big project is you, I thought, gosh, this aligns so much, right? Because it is
Yeah,
about
sure.
gratitude and abundance and, thinking about those things that are important to you, those values, that's at your core. And so often when you're going through a major life event or you're going through a divorce, you kind of lose track of who you are. And for some women who have gone through divorce, they lost track of who they were many years prior. And so by the time the divorce comes, they're really at a place where they have to rebuild. And so that's what those first 3 steps are about. And I say to people in the book, and I say to friends as I talk to them about this issue, do those 3 steps first and start building those habits and getting good at those habits before you do step 4 and 5, because step 4 and 5 is going deep into your why. and understanding, why you need to make the change in your life. And for me, my why was my kids. And it was because as I was researching this, what I found, my kids, were then again almost adults, right? They're in college at this point. But what I found from my research is that if the mom doesn't recover, the kids often don't recover.
Mm.
And that pattern continues. And
Yeah.
so I felt like my why was I need to recover so that my kids recover. And I need to help other women recover so that their kids can recover and we can stop this cycle. And that's really became my why for writing the book. So that's the fourth step. And then the fifth step is all about creating your personal vision, that picture of yourself and where you want to be, because you are that next big project, right?
Yeah.
At your best, as you say in your book.
Yeah. I love the flow of those concepts there, starting with strengths, and especially the way you encourage people to ask others to
Yes.
participate in this. It's almost like doing the 360 surveys, right? Where we ask
Yep.
our leaders to assess us, or people that work with us, or people that we manage, lead, coach, things like
Yep.
that. I love that from the personal perspective. The values, I love the way you separated values, because we could have 50, 100 things that we value, but you break it down to what's the core.
Yep.
What are the core values?
Values.
What are the ones that are most important to do
Mhm.
this? And
Mhm.
that aligns to my thinking as well there. The habits, it's like, get off the couch, right? You got to change the way you're doing things. You just
Right.
can't go, woe is me, right? Feeling sorry for yourself. And you got to embrace new ways of thinking and acting. And that's where the habits come in. The why, I love it from that perspective as well, that it starts with you. How are your kids going to change? Your friends going to change if you haven't changed yourself? And the concept of your personal vision, to me, that builds so much off the chapters. It's like, what are the next chapters?
Yep.
Here's the table of contents in your life up to this point in time.
Yep.
What do you want those next chapters to be? What does it feel like? What could it be like?
Yep.
So
It's dreamy.
congrats on that, man. You're just all over it. The flow. And I've got to think that the other women or people in your life, and that really builds off the next question, because it may not just be divorce. As I said, you alluded to the fact of Black Swan events. Somebody could be dealing with a terrible health news that they got.
Yep.
It could be a loss of a job.
Yep.
Right. Or something like this. It could be something in the environment, or something that happens that affects our homes or how we live. There are other events or tragedies that assist. You've taken one, but wouldn't you agree that all these other Black Swan events, the same approach to
Same
strength,
approach.
values, habits, why, vision, doesn't it all align to those other areas as well?
Yes, it all comes back to that. And I have had so many friends and colleagues read the book who were not going through a divorce, but we're going through those things, empty nesting. Sometimes I had one that was a cancer diagnosis, another who lost a job. And they all said to me, gosh, your story is weaved around your experience of a divorce, but the activities are all about whatever that changes that you need to make in your life. And this really becomes kind of the first 5 steps. You may go in a lot of different directions from there, but if we don't get this part right, like if you're not clear about your strengths and you're not clear about your core values, then there's just no place to turn. If you're clear about those things, you begin to have that vision for yourself. You begin to see what the future could be like for you. And the habit piece is about taking that uncomfortable action. You just said, get off the couch. And again, what's interesting is I've researched this. Again, how many women going through divorce will say they can't get off the couch? How many people who went through the financial crisis in 2008 felt like they couldn't get off the couch, right? And so the habit part is the activator. It is about small, direct, aligned, specific habits that begin to activate you into that next great chapter of your life.
Yeah. When we were talking, Peg, I mentioned to you about a friend I have, an individual lost her job. got divorced, has a young child, and she needs this book in what you're teaching more than ever right now.
Mhm.
And the one thing you said to me when I was asking you for your advice, and it got into the whole emotional intelligence piece, I believe,
Yep.
which probably relates to, strengths to vision and all the things we talked about. But you said to me specifically, can she read the room?
Mhm.
Can she,
Mhm.
you said, Leo, can this person read the room? What did you mean by that?
Sure. Well, sometimes when we, go through traumatic kinds of events and a series of changes, like this individual may have gone through, we begin to focus so internally. And so we're kind of looking inwardly instead of looking around us. And so when I say, can someone read the room? It's being able to adjust what you're doing and saying based on how other people are around you are reacting. But we often kind of close that off because we are protecting ourselves. And so we've gone through a trauma and we have an armor on. And so we have to lift that armor off
Yeah.
and be able to literally read the room in order to move forward and help others to move forward along with us, to understand our story and to be willing to take our hand and move us along with them too. So that's really what I meant by that specific situation.
An armor's heavy though, isn't it, Peg?
Mhm.
It's
Ah,
heavy.
absolutely. And
It's like weights on your shoulders and all around. I mean, I can imagine some people just trying to get up. It's like, when you reach total exhaustion
yeah,
sometimes when
yeah.
you're working or traveling, but I can imagine with a 2x4 hit and something, that weight on your shoulders and your whole body, it's like you can't move.
You can, and it's our natural reaction. It's actually the way our body protects us. So, the fight or flight kind of mentality and the way that our brains work is that when we go through any kind of traumatic event, our natural reaction is to actually put that armor on. What becomes difficult is to recognize when that armor no longer serves us, and we have to start peeling it off in order to move on to that next great chapter. That's why that why exercise and going 7 layers deep, that is about peeling off that armor for that reason, because the trauma has put this armor around us and we need to now peel it off in order for us to move forward.
Yeah. I wasn't prepared to ask you this, but you got a beautiful piece of armor on.
Oh,
And
thank you.
the necklace, could you speak to that for
Sure.
people who are
Actually, this
listening
piece of,
in? I bet tells me a lot about who you are,
yeah,
type
this,
of person you are, how you grew up, what you remember about the values around a kitchen table
yep.
with your mom and dad. But tell us about that beautiful necklace that you've got on.
Sure. This beautiful piece of jewelry is probably from 1940 or so. It was my mother's. This is her monogram that is on it, and I've been wearing it since the day she passed away in November of 2001. And so it just keeps me grounded, both to my values and to my family, my mom, the strongest woman that I ever knew. And so I just literally, I don't take it off. You'll never see me without it, Leo. It's on every day. Um,
That's
Close to my heart.
beautiful. She's got to be looking down with so much pride and giving you some inner strength to do what you're doing. And she's got to be smiling and thinking of how that piece of jewelry, in fact, is impacting other women. Because underneath that jewelry is all this strength from what you've gone through and how it's come out now in terms of a program and experience, your coaching, your lecturing, your book, all the things that you're doing to help, especially women, that you're focusing as a niche client opportunity to help women like yourself. A lot of my work is around this next big project concept and thinking,
Hmm.
living a life of significance, living a life with no regrets. Yeah, thank you
Yep.
for the book. You can see the poster board behind me here. Living a life with abundance and with
Yep.
gratitude and with perspective. Realizing, hey, you got armor on, but you got a lot of good things in your life. You got great children. You got a great job still. Maybe you got a 2x4 hit, but man, there's a lot of other important things that should re-enlighten or relight that flame in your life to do
Mhm.
this. And we talk about being the best version of yourself right now, which you get into in your own way, as well as not just thinking about your legacy or your vision or your next chapter, but
Yep.
living it right now. Get off the damn couch.
Yep. Absolutely.
Which
Yep.
do any one of those principles connect with you more than the others? I think they all do, but is there one that jumps off at you?
Well, all of them do. I mean, I always say my core value, my number one core value is abundance, but I would say that no regrets piece, so important. And I have a little story I'll share with you. I have not shared this with you. So, I was a blessing child. Okay. So I was the third child. My brother, who was 4 years older than I, was born mentally and physically disabled severely. And my parents were told not to have any more children. My dad, who had originally studied at St. John's to become a priest, at the time they found out that they were pregnant, really felt very clear that we were going to have this child, regardless of the fact that the likelihood of me being, mentally disabled was very high. So they had the child, that's me, and my nickname was always called Bright Eyes because at the time, in those days, you weren't able to go into the room when the baby's being delivered. So my dad was waiting patiently in the waiting room, and the nurse came out to him and said, "Don't worry, she's a Bright Eyes." And so from that point forward, my name had always been Bright Eyes, and I was very, very close to my dad. My dad passed away actually just before I was married. He had a heart attack after having a cardiology appointment just the week before. You're in perfect shape. He did a stress test, all this stuff, and he passed away suddenly from a heart attack. Now the story progresses to then my mom, who's now left, by the way, with our brother, who's lived in our home our entire life, and all the strength that it required her to grieve my father and to take care of my brother throughout all of this. About 10 years after, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I made a commitment that I would be at every single doctor's appointment with her. And I distinctly remember driving home from one of her appointments where they had shared with us that it had moved to her brain and there really was nothing else that they could do. And we're driving home. At the time, I drove a Saab convertible, and I was holding her hand and I'm driving a stick shift and holding her hand and singing "These Are the Days" by the 10,000 Maniacs. And my mom said to me, I remember this like it was yesterday, Leo. She said, "I can't understand why you're so happy. I don't know. Do you understand what they just told me?" And I said, "I do. And I'm so grateful that I got the message, I got the memo so that I could spend the last 4 years of my life being with you. So I will have no regrets." And luckily, I had such a close relationship with my dad that I had no regrets when he passed. And I had no regrets with my mom. I spent every moment I could with her. And, I was with her when she took her last breath. And that to me is a life of no regrets. Like, you have to change your course, whatever that may be, as these events come to you so that you have no regrets in life.
Yeah. Well, Bright Eyes,
Thank you.
I share a similar story with my mom and my dad. So I think that's probably emotionally connected you and myself beyond our work contacts and our Rolodex, our love for our parents, especially
Absolutely.
memories that we've got from mom and dad in our
Hey, and we're
life.
both Sicilian.
Yeah. How do you like that for those?
That's a good thing too.
Listen in here to the end, but you're getting people off the couch. These are the days of our lives.
Yep.
And getting the memo is a great way to leave. What memos have you received? Any of you folks listening to the end here that might force you to rethink the next chapter in your life or how you want to spend it. So like Peg Ruppert, you don't have any regrets.
That's exactly right.
I've been abundantly blessed to have you as a friend, to reconnect with you, to share our stories. And I can't wait for the future to continue to align our visions together in ways that we can maybe work together and help each other. And I know you're helping people that are listening. And so thank you for your time today, Peg. It's been a
Thanks
blessing.
you, Leo.
Thank you
So
so much.
great to be with you and your
Thank you.
audience. Take
Thank you.
care.